Every day there's a new roadblock to getting anything done around here. Yesterday, it was our internet was down. That prompted a call from Vicki to Spectrum, who once again sent someone out to work on our internet. This is a once a month ordeal with them, and I'm getting tired of it, to be quite honest. Anyway, while the Spectrum guy's outside working on the internet, me and Jeremy are in the shop pulling the transmission down out of the Malibu so that we can inspect the flex plate and the flex plate bolts and see what the world's causing this problem with this thing to come loose. So once the guy from Spectrum determines that there's nothing wrong outside or he's fixed everything he can fix on the outside, he comes in to inspect our equipment in the windowsill. Hopefully he can figure out something to fix our internet. Anyway, the guys finally get the transmission down out of the Malibu, and we determined that we definitely need to replace this flex plate. The holes are all wallered out. So I fire up the 64 and let it warm up outside. It's pretty cold today. And June Pup hops in the truck with me to head to Jegs. The 64 is just about out of gas, and me and June Pup are a little bit hungry ourselves. So we stop at the BP, fill up the 64 with some gas, and we go through the drive-thru for some McShareables. And then we head straight to Jegs. And when I get there, I run across this little girl out front who wants to tag me on Instagram. Miss Kimmy was there today, but Uncle Terry isn't. I got to deal with Craig. Uncle Craig. Guess what? Uncle Terry's not here today, so you get to deal with me. Craig Michaels has been a store manager at Jegs for many years, and I've been dealing with him myself for at least 30. I hand him over my parts list and send him on his way. All right, I'll hold you to it.
There you go.
What do you got there, Mr. Craig?
That's your head.
Is that going to fit in my truck?
That'll fit on a 70 Barracuda.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
Thanks, Bill. Have a good day.
So we load up my parts at Jegs, and I head back to the house to check in on Vicki to see if she's made any headway with Spectrum on our internet problems. And I have very little faith. Is our internet fixed?
Yes.
For sure this time?
Yes. It's fixed in the barn, and he said a combination of some crimped wires, dust, and sitting it in the windowsill in the sun, none of those things are good for it. So he fixed all those things, and we're good to go in the barn. And in the house, he had some recommendations, which I'm going to do.
How soon?
This week. This old unit, they said that I'd probably be better off with Spectrum equipment than this one that we bought ourselves. So I'm going to try that for in the house.
We'd be better off with Morse code. Every time those guys come out, they give us a new excuse as to why our internet sucks.
I don't know, but the guy lost 200 pounds in a year. And he watches our YouTube channel, so we had a lot to talk about.
So after my internet status meeting with Miss Vicki, it's time for another parts run to Mark's to pick up shock bolts and paint for my hood.
Well.
Hey, you don't have to be nasty to me. I'm the nice guy.
Oh, well, you're not over at the shop because you need to get those back here.
Ooh,
Because I've already taken care of your problem.
really?
It's done.
How is it done?
Because I sent them the right parts.
They already been
By
delivered?
the pictures. Yes, been delivered. They're there.
You mean I just wasted my time coming down
Well,
here?
no, you didn't waste your time because you got to see me.
What about my paint for my hood? You got that?
It's right here.
Why didn't you send that with the other
Well,
stuff?
because we just finished it up. I'm sorry. You know, you put us under a project, you know, you gave us 20 minutes to do something that takes 2 or 3 hours.
How are you so defensive?
Well, because, you know, Jeremy's been beating me up all day.
Oh, I know. That's the way he is.
I know, so
Now what do you think of Uncle Bucko? The other day you were singing his praises. You're getting sick of him, aren't you?
No.
Everybody, oh, come on now. So we got hardener for the primer. What's this?
Reducer for
Reducer for the paint.
and then
What's
clear.
this? That's clear?
Yeah, that's the clear. And then
Is
we're
this
gonna
good
get
stuff or is this?
No, that's good stuff. It says pro. So it's probably a little more than what you guys can handle. I'm going to give Uncle Bucko a cheat sheet for the paint product because there's more than 2 cans, so he's going to need some help trying to figure out what goes with what.
Oh, he's going to need help, all right.
Oh, he will. I'll even circle it and highlight it.
You better draw pictures.
Because we know how good he is at connecting dots.
What I would do is number like this, 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because I know for a fact he can't read that freaking cheat sheet you got there.
I'm still sending it.
So I pick up my paint and I head back to the shop where Jeremy's complaining yet again about working on race cars. Status report.
All junk.
Says you.
Race car junk.
Says you.
I'm right.
Jeremy is your typical mechanic. If the parts didn't come from the original equipment manufacturer, they're junk. And so you can imagine that Jeremy was not impressed that the shocks that I have won't simply bolt up into the car. They have adjustment knobs for the front shocks, and they won't clear the lower control arm holes for the shocks. So, the lower control arms have to be modified, and he grumbles throughout the entire process. He ended up using his little Dremel tool to notch the lower control arms to make room for the adjustment knobs on my new front shocks. While he's working on that, Kenny goes ahead and installs the rears, which are a direct bolt-on. The only issue we had on the rears was that the lower shock mount on the original shocks is made to the shock, not separate. So I went down to Mark's and got 2 of these Dorman kits, and that solved the problem instantly. By Tuesday night, Vicki and I were pretty tired. I'd only gotten about 3 or 4 hours of sleep the night before, and Vicki might have got 5 or 6. But we've still got plenty of work to do out in the shop. Vicki's got inventory and updates on the computer she needs to take care of, and I haven't even started on taking the Malibu apart. What you doing?
Inventory. Hey, guess what?
What?
I updated some stuff tonight,
Yeah.
and I know that some people have been waiting on zip-ups, and we have some.
Good.
Yeah. And there'll be more t-shirts in stock next week.
Good. I've been dreading digging into this Malibu because I'm scared to death I'm probably going to have to pull the intake off of it and put lifters in it. And sure enough, I've definitely got 1, possibly 2 or 3 collapsed lifters in this car. The intake definitely has to come off, and the valve train's got to come apart. There's no way around it. So I go ahead and pull the distributor out of it, pull the intake manifold off, and dig into this thing. Everything looks fine in the lifter valley. However, there's at least 4 collapsed lifters in this engine that have to be replaced. Hopefully tomorrow when I call Jegs, they'll be able to locate me a set of lifters for this engine, and I can get this thing fixed quickly before the weekend, before Friday, because I've got a private test session to go to on Friday. And it's been my intention to change only one thing at a time and show ET improvements for each upgrade. But unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about this valve train issue or the fact that all my elapsed time data that I have previously recorded is all out the window. This explains why, as I've made improvements to the car with lighter wheels and better suspension, the car continues to either run the same or slow down. Whatever the case may be, we're going to find out tomorrow when I put this thing back together. But for tonight, it's time to close up shop and turn it over to Tommy and Allison, who have come over to work on one of his engines and record the work that they're doing for Tommy's channel. Tuesday morning, me and the dogs jump in the 64 and we head to Jegs because they do have a set of lifters in stock, but I've got to go to Delaware to pick them up. That really didn't upset me too much because it's a beautiful day to go for a ride in an antique truck. And obviously I wasn't the only one that felt that way today. So I pick up my parts up at the warehouse in Delaware and head home to find yet another obstacle. Yesterday we didn't have internet, and today our audio is going to be screwed. So yesterday we thought no internet. Today we have a new struggle. New house, drilling the well. We can't hardly hear ourselves think over here, and it's been that way since 8 a.m. this morning. Whatever. Let's get out here to the shop and get busy. I thought that when we put this engine together, Billy had reused some old hydraulic lifters that I had that were a Jegs brand. But when I took it apart, it has comp hydraulic rollers in it. So evidently when Billy bought this cam kit, he bought cam and lifters, which is great, except for I found 4 of the lifters collapsed. They won't pump up. That would definitely cause a loss of power, which in my opinion, it doesn't make as much power as it should. And so I've gone ahead and I just bought a whole brand new set of lifters and replaced 4. I didn't replace all of them because not all of them are bad. And that way, if we continue to have problems, I've got some spares. So we're gonna go ahead and start putting this thing back together. And hopefully this cures my valve train noise that I've had. I've had some valve train noises in this thing, like from day one. I remember the night we very first fired this thing up, it had 1 lifter ticking, and Billy took the valve covers off and readjusted the valves, I think twice. And for whatever reason, we could never get one to quit ticking until it would warm up. So all I know is that I had 4 lifters that would not pump up all the way. 1 was terrible, and that was the one on the driver's side, which I felt like I could hear and feel going down the track. But the problem is these lifters are made in pairs and you can't separate them. Like all my old solid lifters, you could just turn the lifter and slide it off the tie bar and replace just 1 lifter. These you have to replace in pairs, and they're like $74 a pair. So I bought a whole set, and I've got 4 spares now, and we'll see how it goes. I went ahead and primed the engine, brought oil pressure up, and got oil in all the lifters. All the lifters feel good now, so go ahead and put it back together. We'll see what happens. All right guys, so we've got the valve train reassembled in the engine. I've got the valves adjusted. However, I noticed that when I took the polylocks and backed the center stop of the polylock out, so that I should be able to run all these down and set them at 0 lash and turn them a 1/4 turn, and I shouldn't have to mess with the polylock. And unfortunately there were 4 that even a turn, maybe even a turn and a half backed out from where they were, still would not allow the rocker arm to go down to 0 lash. So that tells me that the rocker arms had previously been adjusted way down past 0 lash or even just a 1/4 turn. Some of them were probably down over 1 full turn from 0 lash. That takes a lot of lift out of the camshaft and a considerable amount of duration. This appears to be the smoking gun as to why this little small block Chevy has never run like I thought it really should. So we start putting this thing back together, drop the distributor in it, put it in time, and it's time to put water in this thing, check for leaks, and fire it up. The valve train and the engine sounds really, really good. I go ahead and put this thing in time, and out comes Miss Vicki with a big announcement about war in the woods.
I'm on top of things.
How are you on top of things?
I know things.
Like what things?
Listen, they announced today that Big Chief is coming to War in the Woods for Big Tire.
Yeah.
My mind is thinking hotels are already full, I'm sure.
My mind is thinking, God, I hope she makes this a short story today.
I'm gonna call ahead and just see what's what. Guess what else is in town that same weekend?
What?
IU graduation, a Spring Blossom Festival parade, and a Winona Judd concert.
So there's no hotels available.
All within a right that area. I got one of the last rooms. They're
Good for
going
you.
quick. So, I know things. I'm on top of it. I'm ready.
Guess whose Malibu doesn't sound like ass anymore?
It never sounded like ass.
Oh, it did with the freaking lifters clicking.
You made me cuss.
Well, now it doesn't have any lifter noise.
Let me hear.
So after I got my War in the Woods update from Miss Vicki, I backed the Malibu out and decided to take it for a little test drive. It sounds really good, but I have yet to see if the engine makes any more power or if it runs any different with the new lifters in it. It's like night and day difference with the Malibu. The only thing I needed to do was pull off and adjust the TV cable a little bit and then bring it back to the house where work continues. Not on the engine, but test fitting the new hood. Mark had sent me home yesterday with all the paint supplies that we need to paint it. However, before we lay paint on this thing, I wanted to test fit the hood and make sure everything fits perfect. Once we had the hood lined up just right, we scribed the lines underneath the hood for the hood hinges, removed the hood, backed the Malibu out of the shop, and laid the hood down on a hood stand. So hopefully we can get started on doing the body work, priming, and painting of the hood later tonight. That way the hood can dry overnight and we can put it on tomorrow. All right, guys, had dinner and it's a little late. It's like 10 o'clock. I haven't shaved in a few days. I'm looking a little scruffy, but I've still got work to do and I can't stop. And Jeremy's on a short leash tonight, evidently. So I have called in reinforcements. Dennis, the Menace.
What is going on in here? I'm good.
Good.
What? Oh boy.
Reinforcements.
Well, you're the reinforcement.
This is old school. He
Old
is the
school.
original OG
Painter.
garage painter. Circa 1977.
To the first version of the old man.
Yeah. Yeah. Denny's the guy that painted the 55 Chevy the last time it ever got painted.
Which was what year?
77.
77. Honey, that thing's way overdue. We're gonna have to do that soon.
I'm getting ready to start on something like that here pretty soon. Denny Place has been a long-time family friend. He was the best man in my dad's wedding. My dad and Denny graduated together, and Denny painted the 55 Chevy in 1977. Denny is 72 years old. He hasn't painted or done body work in over 20 years. But tonight, at 10:30 in the evening, I called Denny up and said, "Hey man, you want to come over tonight and do a little bit of paint and body work for me?" Well, let me just put it this way. Denny is the kind of guy who never forgets and never turns down returning a favor. It doesn't matter what time, day or night. If Denny's able to do it, he's there. All right, guys, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, I think this is Thursday morning. I'm pretty tired. So we've made a lot of progress on the old Malibu, and the hood is painted. Thank you, Denny Place. Denny is the kind of friend that you need when you really need a friend. And Denny never forgets the people who have helped him. And I'll tell you, if the world had more Denny Places, the world would be a better place. That's for sure. Thank you, Denny, for coming out here tonight, this morning, and help me get this hood painted so that tomorrow we can go ahead and bolt it on and we can start the process of tuning the Malibu in a little bit. I'm going to probably go back to Jegs and pick up a few more things for the private test session on Friday. I mentioned that I'd like to maybe put a carburetor spacer on it. I may do that. We'll just see how things go. But I did test drive the car today. The car ran wonderful. It's a whole nother car. It's much better. It's much happier, I can tell you that. You know, that thing ran and drove really nice, but you don't realize how unhappy something is until it gets happy. And it's incredible. You barely just touch the gas pedal and that thing goes. I opened it up a little bit here down the road tonight, and it pulls really, really good compared to what it did. So I'm really excited to go test on Friday. I am a little bit depressed that I'm not going to be able to give a back-to-back test of the shocks. Like, I was hoping to do one thing at a time and show increments of improvement that could be attributed to certain parts. But unfortunately, things got messy. And I had to dive into this lifter problem. And evidently it's been a problem for quite a while. And so we'll get a baseline on it tomorrow, or Friday. We'll get a baseline on it with a baseline shock setup. We'll make a hit and we'll go from there. And we'll see. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to make any promises I can't keep. But there's a real good possibility that Malibu may go into 10s on Friday. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate all the love and support. Thank you for all the likes and shares and subscriptions. I really appreciate it. There's been a ton of positive feedback here lately, and I greatly appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Keep working, guys. How bad do you want it?